Well,
You know, and one of those houses that's a house. Just eight bedrooms, something bad. Right on.
All right, it's 5 o'clock. I call this work session to order. First up is the art wall. Anyone want to pipe in on this subject?
if I can just real quick, Mayor.
Yes.
Avery Jura asked when our next meeting was and told him it was today. He said he'd make it, but now he can't. So there's a very minimal sign that's in place, and I'll leave it at that.
I did see the sign. I did talk to him when he was down there. Presented some of the concerns that I think the council has. So I think the art escaping the wall and coming onto the face of the tunnel is certainly an issue that I'm not happy with.
I wasn't under the impression, maybe I was just wrong, but I didn't know that it was going to go outside of the tunnel. The whole wall on the outside going down to Memorial Park there. I'm not real crazy about that.
Give the people a little bit of credit. I mean, there is no signage saying where the boundaries are or anything. I mean, I don't think anything malicious was done. I think that it was just not well put as far as verbiage and signage. If we correct that, and I think that would not be a problem personally.
Well, he was gonna have a website with all the requirements and all the instructions and all that on it too. Is that not happening, or I don't know, but apparently.
He's got a Facebook page.
Apparently nobody's following whatever his rules were, because some of the things are obviously being broken, like painting on the face of the wall. And as far as I'm concerned, this letter we got with our package tonight, I agree completely with. I don't think that, calling it art is a broad definition of the term art. I see art as when you're coming out of Fremont, coming in this direction from downtown on the south side of the road, there's like 4 billboards. And on that, they have this beautiful, just a huge mural picture of a countryside setting, farms and barn houses and streams and corn and crops. And to me, that's art. But what I see down there is just a mess. It's not art. It looks. I think that we made a mistake in allowing this, and I didn't really want to approve this in the first place, but everybody's so fired up about it. Well, okay, I'm going to give it a shot, but in my opinion, we ought to put it to a vote on our tonight's council meeting and stop this thing right now, because it's a mess, and all I hear is complaints about it, and I can just imagine this new business going up in the Whitehall parking lot there. Those people are going to get out on their deck and have to look at that stuff on the south-facing wall, and it shouldn't be on the north-facing wall. And everything getting crossed out, and bad words are being used and then crossed out, and it's just a conglomerated mess. And in my opinion, I hate it, period. So I'd like to see us vote on this and get it out of there and get it painted over as soon as possible. It looks like some of the words on the wall. The one I saw yesterday when I walked through there. Saw the word that's what it looks like to me.
Scott, can you clarify something for me? When we voted to approve this, did we not vote to approve the tunnel
and the wall heading towards the chamber building.
I don't know if we were very specific in any type of motion, but I think definitely the general understanding was that the wall's in the tunnel. And maybe further out, as long as there was all the walls. I don't think there was any contemplation that it would be on the south facing walls and on the bridge itself.
Yeah,
I think that probably went beyond all of our expectations,
Yeah, I agree there.
but I don't
The
believe,
north facing wall too, same thing on the bridge,
yeah, on the bridge, yes.
and on the wall.
Yep.
To the left. So,
I agree that something needs to be done, and since it was called an art wall when we were talking about it, I guess I was thinking of my interpretation of art.
me too.
And what's down there is not art to me. So, I know we can't vote on anything tonight because there's not enough advance notice to the public, but I think we definitely need to tweak the rules if we're gonna leave it, or just, do away with it altogether. But if we're gonna tweak the rules, I would definitely like to see them say, no lettering, no numbering, and no symbols. Art it's pictures or whatever. I don't consider what's down there art. So that's just my opinion.
Well, I wonder how much gray area we get into if we start, like, say, no letters, numbers, or symbols. I know with yard signs, we have the First Amendment rule. If you have to read it to say if it's allowed or not, then you're in violation. And I wonder if similar stipulations fall into place here. And I think what bothers me the most is where it starts extending vertically. Up on the bridge, that's got to be a no-go, area. You got to get what's there off, and make clear that that's off limits going forward. Below that, I guess it's still open to discussions.
I think we should at least give a chance to get signage up and people will be aware of what the actual rules are. If they're just coming down there without looking at Facebook page,
There's no expectation there for them.
Yep.
And once again, just go to Art Prize once and you can make a determination yourself what's art and what's not art. Again, art's in the eye of the artiste. We may not like it. It's not ours to it's ours to like or dislike, but it's the artist that put it up there. I concur with Sean and Keith that the facing walls, that's our bad for not having the signage up there to say, we aren't going to put it there. Take it down, fix it, and just let it go through the summer and see how it ends. They're not going to paint when it's freezing outside because the paint doesn't dry, but they try, I guess. But just let it roll for a while, see what happens.
Who's responsible for painting over what's there then? That is obviously agreed upon that it should not be there on the south facing wall and the north facing wall. It was supposed to be on the walls of the tunnel, and I guess there was a gray area on the part going north out of the tunnel. There was no line or anything where it stopped or anything like that. That somebody has to be responsible for that. And I would think that the person that came to us with this great idea, if he's graduating and he's going to turn it on to somebody else, is he dumping that all in their lap and they're going to have to be responsible for painting over it, or is there a city going to have to be responsible?
This is a National Honor Society legacy project from the city, from Whitehall Schools. So this isn't just anything. This is a National Honor Society thing, as he explained to everybody. So it's a legacy project. So the National Honor Society took it on. So as far as I'm concerned, once we make the determination what we need to do, either the city's going to have them clean it up, or we're going to have to assist them, or whatever it needs done to make it to what we want it to be.
Honor Society sounds good, but it doesn't look very honorable to me.
Were we responsible for signage in the original agreement?
I think it was Avery and Brian would work together on something, and we just never heard back from Avery. I think he took care of the sign all by himself. That's out there.
Yeah.
I would think that, as far as the labor aspect, if we are going to paint over the north and south facing and maybe the walls extended, I'd prefer that the city crews do that, mainly from a safety perspective.
Yeah. Is that something's got to be painted over, or can we blast that? Or with a, it's got to paint over? Okay.
And we've had experience doing that.
Oh, absolutely. Lots. Yep, absolutely.
I don't know what gang symbols are or what they mean or what a lot of these symbols in there mean, but they may be messages to and from, I don't know, maybe Chief would know if there's gang symbols being used in there. I don't know if you looked at them at all or not.
I went down there and took a walk through there. I didn't see anything that I immediately identified as the typical gang symbols that I used to see in my old jurisdiction. We haven't had graffiti down there in years. So I honestly, I don't know what the current gang local symbolism is anymore.
I think I would define those as artist tags, is what I would define what's down there now.
I didn't read every single word on the wall. I was down there this afternoon and I didn't see anything that was vulgar or offensive, but like I said, I didn't read every single one on there. I mean, there are some pieces that I would think are a little bit nicer than other ones, but that's not for me to say.
That would affect your art.
I guess what I don't like about all the symbolization part of it is you don't know what it says. It says something to somebody or they wouldn't have painted it. So, I mean, you don't know if it's profane or not. That's what my biggest deal is with with symbols and letters and numbers and everything else is that if it's not going to be in plain English, it shouldn't be on there. To me, that's not art, but that's my opinion. So, but I definitely think we need to relook at this, with something as far as a council meeting goes, as far as needing to tweak it.
I'm not prepared to abolish it at this point, but I do think we need to remove what's on the facing walls, the outside, so that that's,
Just put up signage.
and get some signage up there so that they know it can't be done, set the rules out, and go from there, and we'll see what happens. If it continues, if they ignore the signs, then we have to do more of it at some point. But
We can't necessarily blame people for not knowing when we didn't tell them.
as far as the art goes, I have to admit, I think as Jeff said, art's in the eye of the beholder. We can't all like the same thing. I mean, abstract, I have no idea what a lot of that is, but for millions of dollars, so who knows? But yeah, I definitely don't like it on the outside, especially on the outside of the town. Possibly that north wall. I don't really care for that, but I'd probably be willing to go with it as long as it was done decently.
I think just starting out, maybe partially shame on us for not setting more clear boundaries from the get-go, but when you go down there and there's no graffiti yet, and you're told it's okay to do the graffiti, it all looks like one big blank canvas. There's no boundary. I think once we go down there, we remove what's not supposed to be there. Going forward, there's already stuff up. A person walks in, they're going to see, oh, this section here has painting all over it. Over there, there's nothing. It should be more intuitive at that point.
Well, when we first agreed to do this, we knew it was a experiment. We knew it was an experiment, we knew it was going to be a trial. Now, I went and looked at all our notes, our discussions, and we were not specific on where exactly it was allowed and where it wasn't allowed. So, as you say, Sean, shame on us. We should have done a better job. We should have required signage up before art was put on the wall. Now, I think that's something that we can correct. To me, it's still an experiment, and let's continue it through the summer. And if we can look at it again and say, do we want to cover it up this fall and not allow it? That's an option. But I mean, I've gone down there and saw stuff that I thought was fantastic art, and then go down the next day and somebody's defaced it with what I thought was just numbers and scribbles. So, and we discussed that. We knew that that was going to happen. The honor student that brought this talked about that happening. So this is, I don't, the only surprise to me is that where it went that we hadn't thought. But the rest of it, I think we knew it was going to be some art that maybe we didn't agree with, didn't like. But art's a very personal thing. So it'd be my desire to let it roll on with those limitations.
Can we get a vote on this in the next meeting? I mean, can this be published as part of the next council packet?
It could be, but just a little sidebar with Will is that you would have the latitude tonight to give some direction to council. If you wanted to wait for your next council meeting and within a week after that, you're talking 3 weeks from now. If you wanted to basically limit the canvas, as was brought up, we could do that tonight and probably get it painted before the next council meeting. Put a Brian on the spot.
I'd still like to have it, you know.
And we could get signage.
Yeah.
I mean, we could. Yeah, we could do.
Anything, we need to get the signage.
Yeah.
Well, and we can paint temporary signage. No painting beyond this point.
Right.
I'd like to see something like that happen tonight, and I'd also like to see it put on the next agenda as far as allowing it at all. And if things change greatly between now and then, maybe I would be in favor of this thing, but at this point, I feel like this Tina Asmus, who wrote to the whole city council, I don't feel that this art wall is positive, and it's graffiti, and something I would expect to see in a larger city, and I won't name the city she put on there. I think this art wall reflects negatively on Whitehall, is not well suited to this area. I have family coming to visit me from Florida, and I'm embarrassed to have her see that display. I just think it's not the right thing for little town Whitehall. It ought to be abolished. That's my opinion. Unless things change greatly between now and the next city council meeting, I'm dead against this thing now. I gave it what I think was a chance, and it's a mess. That's my opinion.
Staff, do you have an idea where? I think my feeling is majority of us agree that it needs to be tweaked and continued.
Well, if I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing, you would allow it to continue in the tunnel only. So the bridge is off limits, the south facing wall is off limits, and the wall extended outside the tunnel is off limits.
Personally, I'm not opposed to the wall.
My thoughts when we passed
the two faces of the bridge and the tunnel. As far as the length of the wall, I have no problem with that.
I concur with that.
Now the bridge, obviously the bridge structure, I think is off limits, but the tunnel facing to the south, is that still acceptable?
the tunnel
Even if it's
face.
the north one.
Yeah, not the bridge itself, but the left and right wall of the tunnel as you enter heading north.
I would say only as far as you can do without a ladder. Like anything that you need to get up to do, no.
Depends on the size of the ladder.
Yeah. I think we either gotta say yes to on the face or no on the face.
I would say no on the face of the bridge, both directions. Personally, they've got a lot of area with the tunnel and the tunnel roof and the wall. 'Cause that's
I'm okay with that.
wall.
I'm okay with that
That's
also.
fine. That
Okay.
might be the most
Something
foolproof
simpler.
approach.
I'm thinking simple. Kiss principle.
Is
I'm
that
talking the north facing wall.
Both.
Both.
No.
correct? Both
And
faces.
Both sides on the south and the bridge on both the north and the south.
Essentially the bridge structure itself, other than underneath, and then the wall.
Essentially, we're only allowing the walls underneath the tunnel and the north wall.
Extended
Yeah.
sign.
Other than
Yeah.
that, and not the face of that north wall, which is already showed up. So, I think that's clear
Okay.
enough.
I want to look at that in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But still, like to see it.
I would prefer that we have very visible signs made before we spend any time in one painting.
Yep, absolutely, yep.
All right. Let's move on to North Mears closure. Something I've been pushing for a long time. I hope all of you got this review magazine and read through it. Read the articles concerning downtown and how important it is, downtowns. If not, I want to read some of the articles. This was from the executive director's message of the Michigan Municipal League. He talked about, says, the power of a city's identity resides in historic landmarks, public spaces, and cultural institutions. If the city is a body built by people, then downtown is its beating heart. Drawing people back to city centers through the creation of inclusive public spaces emphasize the identity and character of their local community. People-friendly streets can and should be an intrinsic component to a vibrant and accessible downtown. Downtown acts as the key defining feature of a community's overall sense of place. The downtown's walkability, infrastructure, events, small business, historic buildings, amenities all contribute to the economic vitality of a community and region. It starts with the downtown. A vibrant downtown has a ripple effect that expands into the neighborhoods, corridors, and the region. Vibrancy attracts visitors, residents, entrepreneurs, dreamers, investors, and developers. I'm saying closing this street down and allowing it for public space is what this community should be doing. We want to have a vibrant downtown. Vibrancy comes from people outside socializing with one another. And the entire Michigan Municipal League agrees with vibrant downtowns, and that's what, I don't know if any of you were downtown last night and saw the amount of people that were downtown trying to maintain that small space that they're required to be in as far as the fetch area.
And to me, that's the only thing that closing that street is going to benefit. Is fetch.
No, it's not. It's going to benefit the community.
No, it's gonna benefit fetch.
And what's wrong with the city
Well-
helping a business?
Nothing's wrong with the city
Thank
helping
you
a
for that.
business, as long as they're helping all businesses. Now, quite frankly, I like fetch, don't get me wrong. I think they took an unused building, turned it into a nice establishment. Consequently, they knew what they had when they bought it, as far as size. They knew what they were limited to. And I think the city has gone out of their way just giving them that sidewalk, to give them the entire street that's gonna limit people from getting
It's
into
not
that
giving it to
parking lot.
them, it's giving it to the community.
The community, for people to go and drink and fetch. What else is anybody gonna use that for? You don't see,
I want to see
you
a
don't,
stage there.
we've
Community
got,
involvement.
may I finish? We opened up, and we've got the promenade out there. I don't see that many people using it. That's what that's supposed to be, was supposed to be designed for.
You see it in the winter. They use it in the winter.
The issue is, that from my perspective, is we've got a promenade with no tables for people to sit.
That too.
Sean and I went after
No shade.
the last council meeting, and I showed him my ideas downtown. Now, if we don't like a total closure down there, I did some measurements the other day after you and I went down there. There's 80 feet from wall to wall. We have 3 lanes down there. There's no reason, and three or four parking spots. There's no reason for 4 parking spots. We have plenty of parking in the back, both sides. We don't need 3 lanes. If we knocked it down to 2 lanes, rough estimate, it depends again if we decide to do one side or both sides. If we do the east side only, we would have a 34-foot sidewalk on the west side, and there's already 22 foot on the fetch side. If we decided to even it up, which would mean we'd have to do 2 storm drains versus 1, you'd have 28 feet both sides of sidewalk. Again, if we decide not to close that down, that as far as I'm concerned, is a great viable option. Again, the city has been lacking with the tables down there. There's no places for people to sit. People don't want to stand around and drink; they want to sit. And looking at, I had a diagram and everything else, but I just was running late. Roughly, if we took that area back from Fetch, and I wouldn't do that until we had tables on the ground where we could put them in place. We would probably have to put about 18 tables down in that area, both sides of the road, on the promenade, on the back. People would sit there. I mean, they're sitting at the table, the charging table. There's always people sitting there. Again, we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we have no places for people to congregate and to sit down there. The pocket park we're looking at and finishing or starting, that will have some tables, but you can have more than one place. One of the friends of mine that he invited his class. They had their class reunion down there, and they ran into an issue with Fetch because they couldn't buy liquor somewhere else and put it in that area because it doesn't meet the criteria for the zone. But if there's other tables down there, they could have done that. There's not tables, so that's what I would do. I don't call it phase 3.5 or whatever we want to call it. I don't know where we're at. It's phase 5. Okay, we could call it phase 5. And then the other thing, as I was showing Sean, if we got rid of 4 parking spots on both sides of that pole area, people could drive around. We would never have to take the poles down, and we could put up a gazebo type structure and put tables under that for people to gather. We just got no space down there, but we got the space. We have nowhere for them to sit.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to have the
I
conversation the other day. because that was really nice to be able to stand down there and look at and hear some of those ideas. And given that idea, if we could get by without that dedicated turn lane, if that road, like you said, could be 2 lanes. We expand out on both sides for pedestrian space, and ideally, at some point, bring that area that is exclusive Fetch now back into the total social district. Just because my thoughts are, if you're a visitor to the community, especially if you're not legally well versed in exactly the rules of a social district, I mean, you don't know. I can bring this cup of liquor over here, but I can't bring it there. But other people can sit there. If we just have the same rules for everything, there would be a lot more simple.
I don't think we should do anything less than 20 feet. And you should remain open, but I agree, lose the left-hand turn lane, lose the parking, and reconstruct that area. But I think it's important that we keep that open to the rear of those businesses along Colby as well as Nylons. They're another business back in there, so they deserve to have that access.
So like I said, it'd be 28 feet.
A lot of people go in.
28 foot sidewalk.
A lot of those businesses a lot of traffic goes through those back doors.
Rear oriented, yeah.
I'm definitely not in favor of closing the road altogether. I wouldn't have any problem with taking it down to 2 lanes, taking with 3 or 4 parking spots on each side. taking those out and making a wider sidewalk, or just leaving it the way it is and putting picnic tables in there so people have a place to sit. But I definitely don't think that, you're not doing you spent almost $1 million building a new parking lot promenade area, and then you wanna take out the main entrance to it. It just makes absolutely no sense. You know, everybody keeps saying, well, you can come in off of Division Street. Yeah, you can, you know, but how many people that don't live in the city of Whitehall know where that entrance is off of the Division Street? You know,
And that would be the only exit too.
well, yeah, unless somebody
Because that one is one.
comes up with some genius way to change the other way from one way, but, you know, I mean, I just don't agree with closing it 100%. I have, other than a few people on the council, I have never heard from one person publicly that is in agreement with closing that road. Nobody has ever brought it up before.
I've heard it from many, many people.
Well, I guess we don't talk it to the same people from the same
I
crowd,
guess we don't, and
because I don't go to Fetch, so I don't talk to the same group. So I agree with Dick that we've been over backwards to help out Fetch, and this helps out nobody but Fetch.
Well, if we added top tables to both sides, you got people that'll gather down there. And like I said, if we decide as a group to add tables and have them ready to go, like Sean and I talked about, to put on that side of Fetch, it would be an easy fix. And
As long as Fetch's temporary, permanent, whatever, goes away.
Yeah.
And that all goes to the social district then.
Yep.
I would be in agreement with that. But still not closing the road. The road still has to stay there, and it has to have 2 lanes at least.
And I think if we did that, if that space was appended to the social district, I mean, everything that they do down there now, they could still do.
everybody, Milan's people could grab a drink and use it. I mean, Pub 111. I mean, I got a fix for that too. So.
The only thing that would have to change is Fetch would just simply put the stickers on the cups.
Yeah.
To comply with the social district.
Then we would have our tables versus their tables.
I have a couple of points I'd like to make, Lois. One is, did anybody talk to Bell's? Did anybody talk to Milan's? What do these businesses think about this idea of closing the road into the parking lot back there? The other point is putting a bunch of tables down there out in the blistering hot sun. People aren't going to sit at them in the summer. If this is mainly for the summer. I went to Hackney Park a couple of weeks ago for the Muskegon Art Fair, and the tables in the shade were at premium. There's no shade in that parking lot back there to speak of. And if you can't sit in the shade, they're just not going to sit there in the sun. Like I wouldn't for sure. I don't. And the picnic tables in the parks, generally, people like to move them into the shade if there's shade available. A lot of people were doing that at the park in Muskegon. Was tables that were sitting in the sun got carried over into the shade of the trees, and that's where people want to sit. And if you got a bunch of tables out there in the sun, people are going to want to sit there. And I still think that the businesses ought to be contacted and asked for their opinion on closing this road. I agree with Scott completely, Councilman Brown, that if we're going to do something to those lanes, it ought to leave 2 lanes open, one in, one out. Maybe that center lane can be done away with. I don't know. That's kind of beyond my scope as to directing traffic, but I think you gotta have 2 lanes open, one in, one out there. And then what happens to the parking spots? And I think it ought to be even the amount on the east and on the west as far as extra room caused by the closure of the lane and taking out parking spots. I think that should be the same on both sides. That's my 2 cents. So basically,
anyone else?
I agree with him.
I also have a fix for Pub 111 too, if you want to hear it. I think we ought to put a bump out in front of Pub 111 like they did down in Muskegon. It's roughly that one I figured out too. I got down with my measuring tape the other day. So. I got the guy from the nail place to come on, so they asked if he needed to move his car. I said, no, you're good. No, you're fine, bud. That one would roughly be currently the sidewalk's 15 feet and there's a 10-foot parking lane. If we put a bump out in that, we can run it approximately 50, 60 feet from and come around from the alley and run it down towards Pitkins. It would take up like 2.5 lanes. Put bollards on there for safety, and then Pub 111 could put tables out there for their people and other gathering, anybody. Actually, we could put tables out there for people, and then we could open First Street back up, because I know that is one of your things. We could open First Street back up that road. So I don't know if it's feasible with MDOT or anything else, but like I said, it was a thought. It would give us roughly 25 feet of sidewalk there.
That's not our road.
We gotta.
MDOT has not been very
No, but
friendly with us.
No, but we did get phase or the phase 3 or whatever 4 or whatever was down there built. So I mean, we should have some kind of push and pull.
I mean, those corners
First Street,
have bump outs, so I mean,
Yeah.
they do in some.
Just do a wider
circumstances
bump
allow
out to that and
corners.
then bump it back. I mean, that's all you really need. And spaces for tables. I put bollards out there just for safety. But that was just a thought. Like I said, I went over there and measured that up too. So
All we can do is ask.
Yep.
If MDOT says no, then they say no.
we can push harder or take what they say.
You know, that idea is not necessarily, doesn't have to be linked in any way to the other stuff we're
Nope,
discussing.
nope.
So.
But it's another thought.
I'd like to see a traffic study on North Mears, because I don't believe that there's that much traffic on that road, in or out. Show me the numbers that say this is how many cars go in and out of there. And I don't think it's that many.
The only way I've ever gone in and out of that parking lot in my entire life.
That's you.
I'm just saying.
Go back and look at the parking lot and see how many cars are back there. They
No.
all seem, 90% of them
No,
came
you
in.
don't know that. That's you're just saying that. Show me the numbers, show me the traffic study that shows the vehicles coming in and out.
Scott, do we have the ability to do
Stop
that?
somebody from.
Do we have the ability to do that without a wire?
Across the road 150 times every night. If they want
I mean,
to-
right now, we do not,
I've heard of that.
if
The speed trailers, that's good to go or no?
Oh.
No, we don't. Other than sitting there, John.
I don't know,
The
I
box.
don't have
The
money
box.
for batteries or repair of the charger.
Alright.
So,
If-
unless you got real numbers, you got nothing, but,
You got nothing either.
don't
You got nothing either. You don't have anything that proves that nobody is using it.
I know people are using it, but I'm saying they're not using it that much, and
How can you say they're not using it that much? Are you there 24 hours a day? All right, and you can't say anything either.
so give me the numbers. Why don't you want the numbers?
I'm not afraid of the number.
Oh, hey. That's,
Like I said, I've lived in Whitehall since 1975, and I have never gone in and out of that back parking lot any other way than South Mears.
that's.
Unless I was
That's
walking.
your personal history.
if the city council, as a majority, were giving serious consideration to closing North Mears, we could do a full-blown traffic study. We would look at traffic flows. It'd be all sorts of times of day, as well as the weekend, looking at the 3 egress and ingresses right now. But I'm gonna do a WAG and say that that's probably gonna cost you 30, 40 grand. It's gonna take a while because you're gonna wanna look at peak summer as well as off-season and winter. But I'm getting the sense that there's not a lot of support even for the concept, so I would hate to spend the money if the numbers didn't matter, either way it went.
can we just close off the center turn lane and that parking without doing any kind of a study if we decided to do that?
You could. I guess my concern with getting rid of the center turn lane is that you've got, at that intersection, you got South Mears and both sides of Colby with 2 travel lanes and a left turn lane. It will throw off the traffic pattern somewhat. And I think if you do have some type of a larger event, you could get a bottleneck there if you don't have a left turn lane, with people waiting to turn left and everybody else wanting to go straight and right towards Montague, getting backed up a little bit. It's just overall better traffic flow if you've got the intersection travel and turn lanes matching. Not that it can't be done, but it just, from a general perspective, it's a better flow. You could get rid of those parking lots on the east side, which would expand your sidewalk. Same thing we did with the west side. All we simply did was get rid of the parking lanes, and it made it wider. So there are options in phase 6.
You need wags on cost.
Yeah, you're probably a traffic study is probably going to cost you 30 to 40 grand.
I mean, to do the work. You're thinking
Well,
100.
Depends on the level of work. If you're getting rid of the center turn lane and bringing the curb further out, that's going to be a lot more expensive than just getting rid of the parking spaces. And I'm not sure what drainage we have on that side.
There's one. One towards the back on both sides.
And it depends on, where the underground structure is
Where that
to bring
goes.
out the drainage structure.
So
I-
extra cheap is what you're saying, right?
For Tifa, probably not cost prohibitive. But I wouldn't even take a guess at, because again, what are the parameters?
Right.
Is it 2 lanes with a left turn lane?
So if we did both sides even, we were only adding 6 feet to the fetch side.
Is it worth the
Is it
money?
worth the money to add 6 feet, or just put that 6 feet on the other side?
The money's coming from Tipless, then, the way it sounds, so it would be up to the Tipple board to decide if they were willing to pay for that change or not.
From an initial perspective, yes. You have the authority to approve, or reject, or amend the Tifa budget. That's one of your oversights over the LDFA, the Brownfield, and Tifa. And there have been times where council has approved, because they only meet 4 times a year. Sometimes council has approved some budget amendments, and we've gone back to Tifa, and they've been agreeable to everything. Because for the most part, it's part of their plan anyway, and their overall vision.
What's the possibility of not recurbing and making the sidewalk bigger and just taking out the parking spots and putting up some kind of a fence?
Planters or something.
Yeah. And putting tables in that area. So you gotta have something to protect people in case a car,
Yeah, fence isn't going to do it.
Yeah.
The large cement planters would afford protection, but that's going to they got to be big enough, so then you're losing the seating area with the planter.
And the concrete, whatever they call those things,
Jersey barriers.
they're pretty big and wide and
Not real pleasant to look at, even if they're blue and white plastic ones.
exactly.
That's what we're both saying. And the city scheme.
Put those out. Yeah. That might be a temporary that we could do.
Yeah, to open it up, but in a
Yeah,
year or so.
and then you got another step down. I mean, it's something you got to look at also.
Could be a silent test. though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Throw something like that together, a heck of a lot cheaper than redoing all the concrete.
Yeah, and like I said, we need to have tables down there. We want people to sit in. Contrary to what Steve said, I mean, you can buy tables with umbrellas. I mean, the plug-in table down there has an umbrella on it. You can buy non-folding umbrellas that these companies have commercial grade, so there's options. They can't come up with nothing down from to sit on, so.
All right, so there isn't support for a total closure, but it sounds like there's support for partial. Well, let's move on from there.
Do you want to present with pricing options?
What?
We need to go in more direction.
Yeah, what I'll do is we'll talk to the city engineers and we'll go back to the Tifa board and present some of these ideas to them, see where they want to go with it. And now when you say partial closure, you're talking a road diet.
Down to 2 lanes from.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The new terminology. Well,
Yes,
new
verbiage.
Not anymore.
I don't even have any problem with leaving it 3 lanes and just taking out the, just removing the parking spaces and doing the curb bump out on that side to make the sidewalk larger.
Yeah,
Whether that gains us, I don't know what it is, but 10 feet, 12 feet, something like that.
10 roughly.
Yeah, we can look at both
I mean,
options.
that would then give you an option to at least put, probably 3 or 4, decent sized tables there.
You can look at both and see what,
Mhm.
see what they look like, I guess.
Is that sufficient?
It is.
All right. We'll move on to playground fall protection. So,
Brian has been in contact with a representative from Game Time, which is where we buy just about everything. Not that they're the only ones. The engineered wood fibers, because they have to have a special name, to put those under the play structure at Goodrich Park is going to be in the $25,000 range. To go with a port in place, you're looking at $70,000. There's always advantages. 70,000 is going to have a much longer life expectancy, and you can actually repair those. The engineered wood fiber, they, from what I'm reading, it's almost an indefinite product, but it does need to be topped off about every 3 years. And then eventually, because it settles, eventually you got to haul all of that stuff out because the stuff on the bottom is no longer any good. And they say that's like a 5 to an 8 year for the bottom stuff. So those are the prices that we got for your consideration.
Is that similar to what's at BG?
Yes,
Thank you.
exactly.
We have a maintenance fix. Just going out there and going with one of those like sweepers on a weed whip and sweep it back every month or so. Versus spending at least $25,000 on something.
Engineered wood fibers, is that just a fancy word for mulch, or is it something a little different than?
It's a little different because, and maybe Brian will correct me. No,
You go.
they use more. They use more of the interior of the tree. Wood chips will just grind up the entire tree, including the bark. And it is, if you will, polished, so that there's
Sharp edges slivered.
Yep. So
It gets you from $30 a yard to $300 a yard.
So if you go to the school playground, that's what's in the school playgrounds.
That's what that just says in G2.
That's what's in all the school playgrounds.
Which
that's-
is,
The engineered wood chips.
Yeah,
Okay.
G part. And
That's
so
fall
put up
protection.
there.
That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
All right. If you look at the swing set at Goodrich Park, there is absolutely zero fall protection. If you look at the child's slide, there's zero fall protection. If you look at the children's swings, there's zero protection. If you look at the swings in funnel field, there's zero protection under the swings. The pseudo fire truck climb-on thing has sand. So we've got essentially a lot of playground equipment with zero fall protection. Now, we can take that blue chips out of there, put them in funnel field where they're not gonna migrate. And then we can get some wood chips and take care of these other areas that have zero fall protection.
I think the wood chips are just gonna migrate just as much as everything else. I mean, if you look at school playgrounds and then you've got, they migrate 20, 30 feet. I mean, it's just kind of common with.
That's not what I saw at the playgrounds. I did not see wood chips all over. They were in the contained areas. I looked at them all. We still got numerous playground equipment with zero fall protection. Does that leave us liable?
Yep.
I believe it does.
I think you should work on the ones that need some protection and not mess with the ones that already have it. We need fall protection at the ones that Mount Wheeler and some of the other structures that don't have it. We should try out these wood chip things in some of those places before we go and spend a whole bunch of money to replace these rubber chips down there on, underneath the play structure.
Be a swap out.
Well, we can try it out at the other place and see how it works.
If I
Somewhere.
can, just two notes. One is the mayor's right. There's a lot of play structures that don't have fall protection. Most of those are older. A lot of the newer stuff we are putting the fall protection in because that's the way to go. Plus, a lot of them are grant funded, which require it, as well as ADA accessibility. The issue we had with the engineered wood chips is there's a lot more maintenance. So that's why, because originally that play structure was the engineered wood chips.
Correct.
And we just decided to try the rubber chips to try and minimize the maintenance. So that's just why we went with that.
Has it minimized the maintenance?
Absolutely. And the important place is almost no maintenance. Well, I shouldn't say almost no maintenance. I mean, you will get holes in it, but you can, they have rubber patch kits. So the more you spend, the less maintenance you're going to incur.
So if you're talking 70,000 for that one area, and you're an accord method, you're talking 70,000 for just about every other area. Add them all up, you're talking $1 million for all the play structures in the whole city. But I don't know, that's a lot of money.
You said the engineered wood is 3 years. You have to refresh after 3.
Yeah, they say to top them every 3 years. So you're just laying another, you're not doing much more than just putting in, like a lot of people do at their home with the cypress mulch, and you just throw a nice fresh.
Cost to refresh, is it like 10 or 5,000 or
Well, it's probably about a third
about a third?
Yeah.
if you're doing it every 3 to 5 years. So you're looking at, another $8,000 every 3 or 4 years.
So at the end of the day, it's the same price. You either pay 70 now and don't mess with it, or pay nickel and dime it throughout the day.
70 over 8 years, and
Yeah.
Have the rubber chips, hasn't been refreshed? Since
No.
they've been
No.
No.
All right. Short on time, just as city manager review, I emailed all the council members a form that has a review for city managers that I would like to use. We'll take a look at it. It has a part for staff and the public, which I don't want to use. I just wanted just the council to fill out that form, put their thoughts to it. Yes, please. With that, I'll open it up for public comment.
Hello, my name's Landon Montgomery. I'm from Mylands. So obviously, just want to talk about the road closure. I agree with most of you guys on what we can use that space for and better ways to utilize all of the money that was poured into it last year. But I don't agree with the closure either. I think that I am there every day in a general manager way, so I see who comes from where and where they park and what those patterns look like, and it's not down to counting, but I do see them on an everyday basis. And that back lot behind the secondary with Bell's off from that division you guys said, it's an employee parking lot. That's what we use it for. That's most of the people that come through there. All of our main traffic comes from that front section. So, and every time we close it, like I know we just did for an event that was in downtown that hurts our business because we're the only fully encompassed business in that parking lot. And so I just ask anytime we talk about the parking lot, if somebody like, we had talked about Mr. Hugler said like reaching out to those businesses, or maybe it was Mr. Sickinga, and just asking like what that's going to do for the tax paying businesses in your city before we just kind of make that choice based on a brochure or a pamphlet. So that's kind of all I wanted to say as somebody who's directly affected by these kinds of decisions. So thank you for your time.
For your comments. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Crystal Davis, and I have a couple of things that I want to say about the different topics we talked about today. The road closure on North Mears, my dentist is back there. I do go back there quite a lot, and I see that closure being a problem. My concern is if we do go back down that one way, there's no traffic light. I just see that being an issue with turning into that. If you have to turn left to get into there, there's no way to direct traffic at that point. The same with if they're coming out Division, there's no traffic light there, so it's like I could see a lot of traffic issues. So I would not be for closing all of North Mears down. The playground fall protection, I am for the poured rubberized floor. I'm an occupational therapist. I work with kids, people with disabilities, and having that poured rubberized floor makes this so much more accessible for little ones, and I think it would eliminate the issue with the chips getting into the splash pad. And I know it's a lot of money up front, but I think it's an investment, and I don't think you have to think of it as we have to do that everywhere. I know those other parks like Funnel Field aren't used as much, so you wouldn't have to put that everywhere, but I think Goodrich Park is a heavily populated area for the kids to play, so that rubberized floor would be better. And the art wall, I think it is a can of worms that was opened, and I agree with Mr. Sickinga and maybe thinking about undoing that. So, thank you.
Okay, for your comments. Anyone else? All right, we're adjourned for this portion.
For the
Hey, Scott,
Yeah.
who owns the trailer?
Brian, Lisa finally said I've had enough.
Okay,
said
so,
that,
so
yeah.
that's his new place?
We had,
Want to move on?
Yeah, I'll come down and hang out with you.
last week we had a family going through town and they got hit, their truck, and it was the axle rod busted.
Oh.
So it's down at Twin Cities being repaired, and they had no way to tow it. That's their only towing vehicle. So Chief actually got his pickup truck, brought it over here, said, "Yeah, you can set it here until your vehicle gets repaired."
Yeah,
We're a friendly city. Alright. Everybody ready?
Sure. Let's hit it.
6 o'clock, I call this meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So if anything comes of it, we'll keep you guys up to date.
Alright, first up is the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. And it's approved. Next up is the consent agenda.
I'll move to the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the consent agenda say yes.
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 Opposed say no.
No,
Consent agenda is approved. Next is a message from the mayor, council, city manager. Start with council. Jeff.
I will have more information on the movies in the park next meeting, or next time.
Work session.
Work session, yes. Yes, I have all that information. Like I said, I was running late in the class, so I'm getting educated, so. I do have the numbers. Hopefully by then I will make it down to the township and see how they actually run theirs. I haven't had that opportunity yet. They're still doing that, so anybody that decides to go down there, if you do before I do, give me a bump jingle, let me know how it goes, let me know what you think, so. That's all I got.
Well,
to further go on the city manager's review, nothing against Scott or anybody that's city manager. I would just like to see, I don't know if changing the city charter or whatever, I just think that since this city manager works for the city council, basically, that all city council members should have input into the city manager's review. And it's not that way right now. Your contract specifically says the mayor.
Mhm.
And I think it, instead of it even having to be an issue of anybody's contract, if it was in the city charter, that it was done on an annual basis and that all 7 city council members had input into it is the way it should be. Because with just leaving it at the mayor can review the city manager by himself without any input from the city or from the rest of the city council. And you're letting one person run the show as far as the city manager goes. Just my thoughts. That's it. Thank you.
nothing tonight. Steve.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing this evening.
Alright. Mr. City Manager.
I have nothing this evening either.
Alright. Move on to public comment. Any public wants to comment? Public comment. We
we have any old business to discuss?
No, sir.
Do we have any new business to discuss?
No, sir.
Last chance for public comment. Anyone in the room would like to comment on anything? All right. Thank you for coming. We're adjourned.